Nath, this week got some exciting news. Meeting in person for the first time in our
Ooh.
lives. How good is this going to be? Late ticket to the N8 Summit, getting over there Friday lunchtime. Scarborough, recommendations, cafes. What's going on up that in that part of the world?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. You may not be aware of this, but Scarborough is north of the river, and I don't hang out there. That is like
Right.
the thing about Perth is it's a literal separation of north and south. Like my clinic,
Hang on,
you
hang
go
on, wait, wait,
over
wait,
the.
wait, wait, wait. Pause. Isn't your clinic North Frio? Isn't it?
It's I always find a joke. It's as far north as I go. I come over the bridge to it, and then I go back home into the zone. North Freo is basically south of the river because of the way the river falls. But Scarborough is the infamous, like, it's where all the travelers and the backpackers hang out and all
Perfect.
the flight
That's
boat
me.
workers. So there's a lot of
Okay.
trendy cafes where there's a high potential that the Instagram shot's better than the food itself. The Rendezvous, the hotel itself, is under repairs because it's been getting lashed by the sea breeze for a long time. But listen, the beach is beautiful. It's a great part of the town. You get to go up the best part of the best part of the coast is in Freo, but beyond that, lovely part of northern coast. But it is, yeah, it's not my zone, you say, but not actually that far from the clinic.
Yeah, well,
But
I'm
I'm
going to
looking
come see
forward.
you. I'm going to
Yeah.
definitely come see you as well. But it's funny, hey, like every city has this north and south of the river thing. Like Brisbane had it. I never understood it. Now I'm in Sydney. It's the same thing. Apparently Perth's the same. Anyway, I think maybe Melbourne's the only one that doesn't have it, but I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong.
I feel like
Uh,
Melbourne's east and west.
True. Oh yeah, you've been there. Yeah, is that a thing?
Yeah, it's like, did you have to come over the west gate? Well, then you are scum, kind of thing. Well, to be fair,
Yeah.
I was in the west. I brought being a west sider into the west, and I still maintained it was the better section. The Easties can say what they want, but also the one thing about Melbourne is getting to places. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's so convenient. You got all the trams." Man, getting from one side of Melbourne to the other, nightmare machine. Largely because I'm West Australian and we hate traffic with a passion, and we don't even have traffic, even though we're like, get delayed for 10 minutes and you think the world's going to end. Melbourne's like, oh, I'm just going to catch me what made over in Baronia, and I'm in like, in Yarraville. It's going to take 2.5 hours. That seems feasible. Let's just grab a quick coffee. Like,
Yeah.
hard pass.
Yeah, I went to the State of Origin on Wednesday night in Sydney, left at
Froth.
10:30 when the game finished, got home at 1 a.m. That's how far. And I
Oof.
didn't stop at a pub. That was on trains to get home. Yeah,
Oh,
time
yuck.
dilation here is stupid. But anyway, that's enough chat about traffic. That's some good chat there. We've just lost all the viewers. Anyway, so one of the conversations I wanted to move into this week was maybe a slightly positive, more positive angle because we've been sort of calling out the nonsense. So then I wanted to call out the good. Spend a little bit of time talking about, I suppose, all of our perspectives and what we've been inside of and what we've seen. And Aaron, like what attracted you to the industry originally, what's kept you here, and just like how different models are existing. Because I had a phone call with someone, I don't think it was last week, it might have been the week before, who was running a 300 per week brick and mortar business in America. It was a franchise deal as well, though. I think ultimately that was what caused the problem. But he said they basically went out of business. Like there was just no profit margin left after all of that. And I know experiencing 300 a week, how stressful that is. That's a lot of work to not make any money. So then what he's done is he basically, I think he may have almost said like bankruptcy to get a fresh start. He's obviously taken a bit of time just working like locums, those sorts of things. Then he heard about someone who was traveling with a table to executive offices and adjusting them 10 a day and 4 days a week. And he was making more money doing that than he was at 300 per week. So to the point, this guy now, this is all in America, by the way. He has a driver because he makes more money if he just gets out of the car and the guy stays in the car rather than trying to find a park, go up. Like he's literally got a driver. Like that's baller. You're pretty much in the NBA at that point. So that for me was like, that's pretty cool. Like, there's some pretty cool things that maybe we just haven't even considered. It's like the standard is just you have to have a room, but apparently you don't. And I've got more conversations to have about these boys down at Gather, what they're doing here in Sydney, but I just want to leave the floor open. Nath, I know you've seen a similar situation like that before. What are the extremes in your eyes? What have you seen out there in the world?
Well, listen, I think the mobile one's one you do see a bit of. There's a guy over here, if he's listening, shout out to you. He sold his practice and then started, you look up to a car in a van, literally has a kitted out, I think it's a Mercedes van, and then just pulls up and adjusts you in the van. Like fully set up, it's beautiful, can go to like work sites, can go to CEOs, and they just roll in, does the work in the van, rolls out. And like I said, it's a higher cost for convenience, but a lower lower model. I mean, diesel prices might not be helping right now, but beyond that, it's a nice way to do it. Kind of reminds me a lot of the equine chiros, where they'll like go to a stable and just see a group of
Mm,
horses. But you drive out there, but you might see 15 people at once. So it's like if you can get work sites and stuff where everyone's on board, you could drive there, see 10, 20 people, and then roll out. It's a great way to do it. And I know, like in the US, you see less here, but US, a lot of the big corporates. I know a guy that works for Apple and was just seeing super high volume at Apple, right? Like, and Apple
yeah.
subsidized all of it. You're making huge money. I mean, he ended up going doing his own thing because it wanted to go down that more, I think it's like heavier rehab model in gym because he really loved that, and then charge a high premium for that sort of coaching service. But there's a lot of really cool options there. I think the one that's becoming bigger and better and more apparent as I look at it right now is the sublease model. I think with the change in contractor laws and employee costs, so many practices are going to these like subleasing. Shout out to PJ Mason, good friend, up on the Goldie with CNS, 3 practices, and it's just a lot of multidiscipline, largely subleasing, like bringing in chiros to set up their own thing, physio, EP, some are employees, some aren't. Spine studio down in, I believe it is just Melbourne and I want to say Sydney maybe, or Brizzy. I think they've got something like 75 physio, osteo, chiro on board with a unified treatment approach. So it's the same amount of time, same kind of process, and you pick a person not on practitioner but on like specialty, I guess you would call it, or like area of interest. So I think there's some really cool models out there, which is just testament to the fact that I think there's a lot of people doing things because they thought that's how you had to do it rather than that's what you can do.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with the sublease stuff. I think PJ's on the sunny coast just quietly, but I'm sure you won't be
Queensland.
offended by that. This spacing gather that I went and saw on Friday, I'd seen it a couple of weeks ago. It reminded me like of student clinic. You know how you go to student clinic and there's just like a stupid amount of rooms in one building. It was like that, except it was a beautiful fit out. Like it was so high end, it was unreal. And their model is basically you hire it per hour. So the idea there for them was healthcare practitioners should work in gorgeous spaces. That's what they deserve. But a lot of the time, the setup fee is too high, so they can't actually afford that fit out. So they figured, we'll do the fit out, deal with the leasing, you pay per hour, and then that's kind of how you can have access to these high end facilities without going into stupid amounts of debt. And for them, like obviously it's only early days, but I think the model works, because you just sort of saw like a chiro come in for a couple of hours, sort of physio walk in. I think there was counselors there. There's a full gym set up. There's like people who release the spaces were in the gym doing like talks and all learning off one another, which I thought like that was pretty cool, pretty different. Then I was talking to them about like, well, how many, like personally as a chiro, you probably only need to get into one building in the city and you're
Yeah.
set. Like you literally just have to get into one. Arguably, probably even a floor, and you probably be okay because like my wife works in private equity and they just have people come in and pitch them stuff all the time. Funnily enough, one of the things the guys were complaining about is like we don't know how to pitch what we sell. They were saying like spinal screens and stuff aren't that impressive to a corporate CEO, but they might be more impressed about how to get the best out of their staff, how to make sure they're focused at work, not taking days off because of XYZ, ergonomic advice. Like there's so many things that can be done, but there was no basis point for that. And now they've provided that space. That might be an avenue that they go down. But obviously that's like the leaner, more chill, personal solo operator vibe. The other end of the spectrum then is these practices that you hear doing, like 1,000 a week. Obviously completely different model, but it still works. And that I personally haven't been inside of a practice that does 1,000. I think I only know a handful through conversation. Have you ever seen anything like in person like that, Nath? Have you experienced it? Like, what's it look like in that sort of world?
Like I've been in practices that like one doxing 500-600, and it's just less input, more systems in a lot of them. I know there's I think it's Chris Zano. It's Chris or Zano in US, and there's a couple of them there that apparently see like 2,500 visits a week solo. I've never been into it. I have good friends that have and have confirmed that it is a thing. And I remember people arguing, they're like, well, it can't be good care. I was like, yeah, but they've been at that level for a decade. You've got to be doing something right for that amount of people. Like, there's no mass hypnosis here. Like, people don't keep referring and coming if they're not getting value. Apparently, the car park's like a full shopping mall. But I always argued that I want to go see that. Even my physio mate was like, I want to go see that. I was like, I don't want to do it. But you better believe if someone can efficiently run that kind of volume, I think he works 4 days a week.
Yeah.
I want to know how you do that. Because imagine like you wanted to see 20 a week, but you could take that level of efficiency into your practice, right? Like wild.
Yeah.
And like I think those are like for those people everyone argues it's like just financial. A lot of them I think they have it like you can come as much as you need kind of set price thing, but they see it as doing more for healthcare, right? And that if there were more chiros around that could handle it, they wouldn't need to see so many people. So I don't have an issue with it. I think again, what you really learn from those is just systems more than anything else, right? Because I guarantee you, they're running marketing, but most of it's in house when you get to that volume. Like if you have that many people coming through, your internal referrals must be monstrous, right? Like
You'd hope so. Yeah.
but I mean, I just can't see how you could sustain that level. Like it must be a very stable practice for, and they must, and the people I've met that are in that are just so connected to what they do, so connected with the people in it. Like people rave about it, and people, you're like, he was with you for probably less than 30 seconds. It's like, but somehow these people are like, they manipulate time in a way that it feels like they were with you for an hour. It's quite interesting. It is the ones I've known in Australia that've done it are very rare, usually more regional, probably less so these days. But a lot of it was 2,000 a week volume, but it wasn't what often people think of 1,000 a week per visit, like cost, right? So often it is one of those models where it's like, all right, you pay at the start of the week, and if you need to come 3 times, 5 times, you can. Like it's not an issue. You just pay a set cost, and that was largely work because it was just a solo operator, and they're not paying associates. So it's some really cool things, and I think one of the things that I had a conversation with someone during the week because I did some collab work with a company called Ape, no free ads, but they are like a supplier over here in Western Australia, and they asked to do some work with them. I was just talking about co-working with healthcare practitioners, and shout out to Luke who commented. He was like, the problem is that like chiros are varied, that it's hard for people to work with them. I was like, I disagree. I think that's the best thing about chiropractic is the varied approach, and it's on us to go meet these people and tell them what we do and build that rapport, rather than like, I don't want a gentrified gray industry, right? Like I think the best thing about chiropractic is its variation because it allows all sorts of things. It allows all levels of sort of, expertise, and it allows people to get results that might not have gotten results with something else rather than, unfortunately in a lot of industries, if you go see someone that doesn't work, there's no point in seeing someone else that does the same thing. Whereas in chiropractic, you can honestly say, hey, listen, I think this is a chiropractic issue, but I'm going to send you to my friend who does things a bit differently, and I think that's going to be better for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of it. I definitely agree. I think it's a strong suit. Our weakness is that we're not communicating it well enough. Like everyone knows we're different, but they don't know why or how, or what the benefit is. So from that model perspective, then, because obviously one's 50 people a week, one's 1,000, completely different, but they obviously still work to some extent. So Aaron, from more of an overarching model assessment or like number assessment, what then, like when you're looking at businesses like that, so say the rehab chiro comes in with 50 a week and then the 1,000 a week guy comes to you, there's the same numbers that you track, right? Like what are they? I know you've said the core four quite a lot. We've got the SVM now as well. What are they? And then what are we aiming for so that you know how to work your own model? Because obviously the 1,000 a week guy can probably do some stuff that the 50 a week guy can't, and vice versa. So what levers can you pull?
Yeah, I'm always the numbers are the core four. In any business, you want to know what is your acquisition cost? What is your visits to break even? Like how long is it going to take you to break even? You want to know how much do I collect within the first 30 days? And then you want to know how much do I collect over a lifetime? And there's other metrics like per new patient, how many new patient referrals would I get? Then you could, if your cost of acquisition is 100, but you get 2 referrals, your true cost of acquisition is likely closer to 30. So then if you knew that, you could then spend a little bit more. But the idea is regardless of the model that you run, you have to know those at least. And then even if you don't run ads, because I'm assuming the guy's seeing 50, he's probably not running a ton of ads, probably doing a lot of other marketing. You still have a cost of acquisition because largely networking and all that kind of stuff is your time. So then it's your cost per hour, right? That's still a time that you factor into your cost of acquisition, right? Because how much time does it take you to go and acquire that? And then your time has a cost on it. So there's still a CAC on your time. You can figure all of that stuff out. And then I just want to know how fast does it get you to break even? And within 30 days, how much money have you got back? And are those positive? And if you have positive 30-day, positive lifetime value relative to your cost of acquisition, it's a happy business, and you don't, and the good news is like, let's say it's $20 cost of acquisition, like a 30-day cash of 60 is still a net positive. So you might see them one time over 30 days, but you're still net positive. Whereas some of these bigger locations, they have to see them 12 times before they're breaking even. And so you get to play with your economics a little bit, and you might spit at $60, but seeing someone for 12 sessions and getting $60 is also very difficult. It's a hard pill to swallow. But those are the things that I'm always looking at. If this was an e-commerce business, we'd look at the same things, right? Like if it was a personal training business, looking at the same things. So yeah, it's pretty universal.
Yeah, that's right. And you might have mentioned it, I might not have been listening, but because we speak about ratios quite a lot with our marketing as well. So it's like that 30-day cash, yes, you want it to be positive. Ideally, a 3-to-1 is kind of the aim there, if we can.
Yeah.
What's the reasoning behind that? Why is it 3?
Well, I want to know, well, that's a standard recommendation based off of the businesses that are in existence, right? Like, but the idea is you want to be able to take 30% of that and reinvest it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, cool.
if I know that I've got $300, CAC is $100, I know that I can take $100 and put it back into the next acquisition, right? And I can still take the rest of it and at least pocket it or do something else with it. And then the ratio for the LTV, we want typically a 1 to 10. That's probably on the lower side. So if it costs you 100, make 1,000. For the same reasoning, you can at least then say, well, 10% of my total collections goes to marketing. And I've got those numbers that I can now kind of gauge and play with. That's effectively the rationale. Now, if you can supersede those, great. That's ideal. Yeah,
do it more. The way I explain it is always like at a 3-to-1, you feel like, because the thing I hear the most from practice owners who are doing outsourcing their advertising, they're always like, I don't know if I'm getting a return. Like, I don't know if this is working. And I've always found if it's not 3-to-1, they don't get that third. And like, they don't get anything back because they pay for the next month and then they don't get that third back. So even if it is a 2-to-1, that cash is just going straight into the next month anyway. So that's where that feeling largely comes from. And usually the 3-to-1's pretty achievable up until you start doing it for the associates, because then that, realistically, that needs to become a 4.5-to-1 because you've got like a 50% that you've got to pay the associate to do that work. And all of a sudden, like 3-to-1's tough enough. 4.5-to-1, that's getting real tough. And that's even probably for some people who haven't focused on that lifetime value ratio, 1 to 4.5 is probably all they get total, over that time period. That's what you're saying with like the 12 visits to get $60 back. It's like, yeah, you got there, but far out, you've just done 3 months worth of work. So with that, then, like, Nath, if we looked at the two models, so I think it's really easy to say 1,000 a week, you probably have the revenue to be, let's just assume you've got enough of a margin to invest in digital advertising. Even if the CAC's $200, typically you're going to be recommending at least $2,000 worth of care, which works out to be about, I think it's about 20 visits or something. Usually those models, that's what they do, and that's why it works. That's a $200 CAC, $2,000 lifetime value. Perfect. Thumbs up. On the other end of the spectrum, though, usually these guys that are doing less frequency, they do have a higher visit fee because they do longer, more specialized appointments. But their downfall is that lifetime value. They're not doing the heavier care plans. Nothing wrong with any of those things, but what I'm saying is maybe they don't get that $2,000 lifetime. They maybe get like $800. So if it's still a $200 CAC, you only make $800. You're getting a 4-to-1 lifetime. All of a sudden, that doesn't really make sense. So for those guys, like, what would you do? What would you recommend? Because before we were talking on this, when you were doing it yourself, networking events, all these sorts of things. So what avenues can they go down instead, rather than just following the standard textbook advice of Facebook?
Yeah. All right. So like two focus, right? So I always argue that, like, if you're going to start up a fresh practice lean, like 90% of what you're going to do is going to have to be, quote unquote free, right? Like, you're selling time. And so networking is the big one. Like, you have to get your face in front of people. People have to know you, right? So organic content, obviously, still, that's free. You just got to make it and do it, whether you like it or not. It's just got to be done. The marketplace doesn't care about your feelings. Simple facts here, right? Google's the same thing. Just like start getting that Google profile set up because people will look for it. 3 then goes into you, like, go meet the people in your niche. Like, if you haven't already figured out who you like to work with, who you get great results for, and who can afford to pay you, then you need to figure it out. And you need to get that whole niche avatar set up, because that tells you where these people are. And then you need to go find them. You need to go to the places they shop, they eat, that they train whatever your niche is. If it's mums and bubs, you need to get into that sort of midwifery, lactation consultant, birth planner kind of vibe. If it's sports, you need to get in the gyms, sports clubs, all right? Like, donate a bit of time, offer to do things, but you go there to build relationships. It's a very simple process. And like often it's, on my little street when we first started, I just went and met all the businesses, got to talk to them. And so people would be like, oh, the chiropractor's just moved in. Oh, do you hear the chiropractor's moved in? The chiropractor's were like, we even did a flyer drop with no intention of getting any patients from it. It was just, I had a picture of my dog in a party hat so people would actually look at it first and just said, hey, clinic's opening. And I had our logo. And I just wanted that first touch point of like, I've seen that logo.
Yeah,
Right?
wait,
So
hang
that,
on. Was it a picture of your dog in a party hat or a picture of your dog and then you in a party hat?
No, the dog in the party hat. It was
Okay,
he did a
cool.
photo shoot as part of one of his doggy daycares. And so like I literally have referral cards that say you're awesome with a picture of the dog. Just again. So like he's on our door. Like the front of the clinic has the dog on the door. Shout out to my good mate Dylan, who was like, before you do things, you should put your dog on the door. And I was like, I should, because Frere's a big dog town. So
Right.
people notice it because they like stop at the lights and they're like, oh, there's a dog on the door. And every so often he was in the clinic. So he's sitting next to the dog on the door looking out. So it's a copy of him and him. People thought that was amazing. Like there's so many strategies and just leveraging, like, again, going and meeting everybody. That's how I built my first practice. I took 52 meetings in a single week and just went and met everybody I could. And then the practice started to build, lo and behold, right? So I think there's so many options. I mean, going to the other issue though, like on a low volume model, and that's, I always think of low volume more as like, I only want to see so many people, not necessarily as scheduling, right? Because scheduling should be based on best evidence and experience. And obviously it's like Sackett's triad, patient expectation, but you can't necessarily have someone come in and be like, oh, just because I'm going to do more work on you, you can come in less frequently, right? Like that's a like common fantasy you see that's like, well, I'm going to do more and more, so it's going to work better. It's like there's a there's a diminishing return. It's like training. Eventually you can't recover from a certain amount. So doing more work is actually pushing the person, either it's junk volume and they're not getting any better, or it's actually pushing them further away from getting better because you've inflamed them so much they don't recover. So
Yeah.
even on a like longer appointment model, most people, I would say 90% of people probably need to start it twice a week for a couple of weeks at least, just to get change happening, right? It's like if you're getting into the gym, you're going to go once a week for a while, like it's going to be slow, and like the body's going to forget 90% before you get there. And just being like, well, I'm going to do needling and laser and all this is not countering for all that. So a lot of those people need a bit of bit of coaching and support to just guide them on what's appropriate. It doesn't have to be, 3 times a week for 12 weeks, but it could be twice a week for 2. You might do weekly for a month. You use re-examination to determine where they're at, and then you build people out. And, I find a lot of those people in the, we'll call it low volume or pain space, they still work maintenance with people because they go into more of a like sports coach point. They should still be able to have a process there. So if, if in your example, if their CAC, or their lifetime value is that small, they obviously don't have the ability to get long-term results for someone. It's probably that classic case of in the pain studies where they're like the low back pain corrects after like 6 visits. It's because the GPs, people dropped out at 3 visits because they weren't getting a result from the GP care, and the GP marked them as fixed. And why we have this fake association with like low back pain resolving, yet chronic back pain's going up. So again, we talked about this in one of the other ones where I had the mate that's just like, I just get people better so that quickly they drop out. And I feel like, yeah, who's going to tell him? But again, the volume model has changed. It's about how many you want to see, not rather than your ability to see. And I think that's a really important and like positive distinction. Why wouldn't, if you could make the same money and get a great lifestyle and you work 3 days a week and you see like 30, 40 people and you like, and everything's where you want to be, all power to you, sister, brother, whoever you are. Like on the other hand, if you want to go higher volume and see a couple hundred a week and run that kind of vibe, all power to you, right? At the end, I don't care how you do it, as long as you're getting remunerated, people are getting good results, and you're not shit talking to other people.
Yeah, you made 2 good points then. First one being when you started, I don't think it matters what model you run. You should just be out there doing those activities that you just stated. Like go and meet every single business person in your area. Maybe if you want to run a Facebook ad out the gate, cool. But you've got to get in the community. Like that's how it works. Something to say on that?
Me or Aaron? It's
You look like you're about to say something really good.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you that I did. I don't know if you'd do it these days, but back in the day, so like we were still fitting out the office, but I got like the old like paint texter and wrote like something new is coming on the wall, and then literally took like a photo of it and boosted that post across North Fremantle just to get some, again, just looking for those different eyeball points of like, there's something coming. Get people interested. Get people talking. Here's the letter drop. Here's the me meeting the businesses. Like I was seen constantly. I mean, I will
Yeah.
never forget in Geelong, we did some Facebook advertising, and I think it was more just like awareness campaigns than anything else. And we would go into places and like fair play. Hannah, my old principal, shout out to Han. She's 6'1", so she is, when we would go to like events together, she'd wear heels like an absolute savage on me and just tower over me. But I'm also not the most indistinct human. So you've got two very distinct humans doing Facebook campaigns in a regional town. Yeah, everyone has seen you. Like I'll go and the people are like, oh, I've seen you online. You're like, hey, come in. Like it was just an easy opener. It was like, you already had like a warm opening to everyone. They're like, hey, you're the Cairo. You're like, I am. Do you want to chat about it? Let's go.
Yeah.
So again, like you're just trying to like make you unmissable. And I think there's a point to be made on this as well, is this constant thing I hear from students and new grads that the market is saturated. There is
Yeah.
really good evidence to show that the more you have of a practitioner in a region, obviously there's a tipping point, but the busier they all are. Because when there's only one, it's a bit weird. Like, why is there only one? What's going on? Like, maybe they're not that good. When there's multiple, it's like everyone has their chiro, everyone has their physio. Like, it's oh, you don't have one? We need to see this one, right? Like, everyone tends to be, when they work together, universally busier than often, like, especially in a metro setting, than the one. So, like, I think in general, this idea of saturation is absolute crap.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's I think that's just an excuse to ultimately just try and avoid doing the thing you need to do, which is go all in on yourself. And like, how can you get outworked by yourself? It doesn't make sense to me. And I think to that point, like that all of those activities are what we would label like the connected owner. Like they actually want to succeed. Even though you were in your practice, you were still trying to get out of your practice. Where this disconnect comes from is, I'm going to sit on my chiro table until new patients walk in the door, and I'll just outsource to some guy to run some ads for me, and we'll see how we go. And it's just like, the leads are never really good. There's never enough. It's getting too, it's just like, you just don't get it. That's,
we attract what you put out in the world. I don't want to get too woo on people, but I believe in some kind of universal thing. Like if you're putting low energy out, you're probably going to get low energy back in. You're going to get, if you don't want to do the work, I was having a laugh with a great new patient of mine recently. His brother actually started like a networking take, a change from like your traditional BNIs. It's called the Art of Mondays. It's basically you pay in, it's very cheap, and you match with other, like, again, no free ads, but like
I did this. It's
young
good.
founders to play sport, right?
Yeah.
Jai was a starter of Cold Nips over here, which is a group of crew that meet at like 5 a.m. on a Wednesday to go jump in the ocean. It's got a huge community behind it. It was probably a bit early. My associate did. It was a bit early. The people were too far spread to be able to actually do stuff, but it's a really smart take on the idea of business and fitness being such a big thing. But the laugh I was having with his brother Flynn that I'm looking after, who's just an absolute legend kid, was this, like, most of us get into healthcare, or we did, because we're trying to fix ourselves, right? Like, I battered my body in so many sports, and I was like, hey, this thing seems to be working. I want to do more of this. Most people get into nutrition, had nutrition issues, right? Most people get into psychology, respectfully. It's possible psychological issues there, right? Let's be honest. We've all met these people. So the point I'm making here is and then you tend to attract the younger version of yourself. You tend to attract the younger version, or like a similar version of yourself. If your version of yourself is someone who was never that interested in the industry, came into it for money, so you're price sensitive, and you don't want to put any energy into it, who do you think you're going to get? The person is not that interested in what you do, doesn't want to spend any money, and is like going to flake out quickly.
Yeah.
These are all the people you see that are like, I'm going to go 100% on paid marketing with no organics and no energy, and assume that's going to work.
It's the same thing. It's scary how much it mirrors, hey? Like it's a parallel of the same. Yeah, that's funny as the Art of Mondays thing's actually pretty good. I went and played tennis with a lawyer once, and he absolutely whooped my ass, and then I cancelled my subscription. It was good. Yeah, it was like I couldn't even return his serves. He had flames on his Nike tennis shoes, and when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, I'm out of my depth here.
Need to play paddle, mate. Could have had a back wall to help you back in.
Maybe we can play on Friday if you've got got a spare stick.
If the rains are away, it could go down.
Cool. All right. So I want to pivot this one to why we're all here. Why are we in this industry? What are we trying to solve? What drew us to it? Nath, what got you into coaching? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Because I get asked that a lot. And then even Aaron, like, why'd you leave fitness to be here? So I can kick off with sort of my own story where same thing, in a practice. I ran it as like a clinic director. Then I was going to move overseas, and my old boss just said, hey, could you help me with the operations of this company? We sort of need a chiro doing that. Cool. I'm not the only person to ever do it. So I was like, sweet. And we had all these associates, and I started building out their training. So like conversion retention was obviously the first two. But then I quickly realized when you put a new grad or a young chiro, even an experienced chiro, into your practice system, it doesn't matter how much experience they have. They don't know that system. Everyone's different. So then I realized, well, so the conversion and the retention is like one part of the system, but then they also need like leadership. Like they need to know how to deal with their CA, how to deal with their patients, what the branding is of the whole company. So the leadership was the next part. Then I started trying to get into advertising, because they were largely, they would, what I would call disconnected owners. They didn't know how to attract new patients. And I would say that that's the majority of associates. I've seen a handful go out and get in gyms and do stuff, no doubt. But I would say the large majority just sit there and they expect new patients to walk in the door. So when we started trying to look down that avenue, there was only really paid ads that we were doing. That's where I met Aaron. And as soon as I started sort of delving into teaching, well, maybe you should go to a talk, go to this, go to that, whatever, I realized that the churn of the chiros started to happen because now they knew how to do the sales process. They were a leader, so they felt like they knew how to run a practice. And now they were starting to run their own new patient processes. Why would you work for someone else? Like, naturally, that's what's going to happen. The other thing that I noticed was as I taught leadership and they started to get their own spine in hyphen, like they started to get an idea of what what they actually wanted to do. Some of them didn't agree with the model. And because we were working in a company model, I couldn't do anything about that. I can't change the model. That's the one we're in. So you have to just do what we sell. Unfortunately, that's another point of churn for a lot of companies. So then that was kind of, I was like, all right, well, let's go out. Obviously, there's still a new patient issue, but I want to see how other people are doing these model things. And what I learned very fast is that instead of just working for a company that tells you what model you should do, chiros were just listening to the coach and getting told what model they should be doing. And for me, that pissed me off because it's like, where's the accountability? Like, where are these connected owners that actually care about what they sell? And there was very few and far between. And that's pretty much how we've ended up all the way down this road. We started trying to be like, this is like market the way you want to market. Now it's like, run the practice the way you want to run the practice so you can market that practice. And that's where we've ended up with, like, we need to connect owners to their thing. Like, you need to have your own IP. You have to like go all in on learning everything and back yourself, because if you don't, you're just an associate, like in a practice, expecting new patients to show up, and it doesn't happen. And when you're paying for your own stuff, unfortunately, you don't just have a solid wage coming in. Some months you lose money, some months you do really well, and some months you get an associate and you take them to a seminar and you lose 25 grand, and then all of a sudden you've got to flip your entire business on its head. So it's, for me, that's like why we're here. It's like chiros have to make their own model. They have to understand how to market their own model. They have to understand how to be a leader. Yes, they can delegate things, but you can't delegate something you don't understand. Like, you have to understand it first. And that's really how we got here, and like what I feel like the whole lean practice is about. It's like chiros taking ownership of themselves and their thing. And that's what gets me out of bed. But Aaron, I want to hear back to probably not the last couple of years. I'm going to say like back to 2015. Why'd you jump from fitness to chiro? Like, what made you do that?
Yeah, so I was a PT from 18 years old, so nearly 20 years ago. I was in competitive sports, so track and field. I was a runner of all things. I'm 110
Sprinter.
kgs now. I was a sprinter.
Yeah.
You wouldn't
It was
catch me.
it was Usain Bolt and Aaron Hills.
You would not catch me running anymore. I can still go though. I can still go. I can pull a hammy, but I can rock it if I want to. At least that's what I tell myself. I was a competitive sprinter, and then I was fortunate enough to be in a program, a developmental program in New Zealand, and I work with an exercise scientist. So I was super interested in the sports side of things and sport performance. But I was back then I was pretty dumb and I was very ill-disciplined mentally, and so I dropped out of my degree and carked that. Went into personal training, and it was about 2017. I had two kids under two. I was burnt out from my job. I was working mornings. My wife was working evenings. We were missing each other. So I was like, okay, we've got to go and do something about it. So I went down the route of, the online gurus, all of that kind of stuff. How do I basically take my expertise and put it online? How do I do this differently? And so literally it was, how do I shift an existing model? And so we learned how to do that. I pivoted, took my online one-to-one personal training business to a one to many. I had about 300 dads at one stage, fully online. It was great running Facebook ads and phone sales, and would sell people that I've never met over the phone into my program and get about $1,000 from them, which is cool. It was great time. Learned a lot about marketing and sales, but it was high volume. So I felt like my expertise from fitness actually just became, I was a glorified salesperson, and I didn't like that. And so I decided that I was going to take the skills and apply them to businesses. So I went down the route of F45s, body fit trainings, CrossFit on one side, and I partnered with a guy over there. We built an agency on that side. At the same time, I partnered with a very well-known person in the industry, and I won't say any names, and for about 6 years worked with them on the chiropractic side. I probably, between the two of them, we probably had at any one stage over 200 clients, so 200 businesses that I was looking after, and both very skeleton teams. So I got to look at all of those businesses myself and consult on all those businesses myself, and started to notice a few trends when it came to how people apply themselves to business. There was not a lot of money on the fitness side. And so because there wasn't a lot of money on there was actually a lot of churn and burn on the selling of the franchises. And so we were just getting a lot of emotional stuff happening. So I actually moved over to the chiropractic side because it's still within the kind of the health wellness side of things. So it kind of ticked that box for me. And then B, I believe that the model was better and stronger. And so when I looked at the numbers, I was like, that's something that is worth pushing and growing. The thing is that what I didn't understand is I didn't understand that I was only getting kind of surface economics and I was getting the status economics. I wasn't actually getting ever the take home. I would never be able to see what the actual performance was in the practice, which led me to then go and work with the owner that you just mentioned and partner with them, because I was interested in solving the model, because the advertising, as cheap as it was back in those days, $5 leads, $10 leads, and getting 100 to 200 a month, not a problem. It still wasn't working itself out. So I was like, this is not working itself. I need to go and figure out what those numbers are. I need to go and spend time in the practices and actually work with the chiropractors to understand the model at large. And then that led us to kind of start chatting, and man, did I learn a bunch about the model. And I would say it's probably not until even this year that we've been able to pinpoint what those problems are. And then churn is obviously a huge part of that, but the margin issues is the biggest one. And so the reason why we're still here is I've got this. You ever heard the saying, the rock in the shoe?
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't matter where you've just got this thing just sitting in your woman's shoe that pricks you every time you take a step. And that's what this model issue is for me. I sit in we sit in a tricky space. We're one of the largest, I'd say the largest economic investments for a chiropractic practice in terms of advertising. We're also one of the ones that are most sought after to solve all of their problems. But I would say that we're probably, the marketing industry is probably one of the biggest causes of their issues as well. Because despite what you believe, new patients is probably not going to solve your problems, because there is a model issue. That model issue needs to be solved in order for you to run any marketing efficiently. So we've come down a few notches to actually examine the model, to reestablish the model, to then come back and go, now you're in a place where you can actually market, not only market, you can actually survive in these, volatile conditions. And I feel like that's really where I'm at, is I want to get that rock out of the shoe. I want to be able to say that we legitimately helped. And in order to do that, unfortunately, you've got to go against a lot of the advice that's out there at the moment.
Yeah, that's it. That's and I mean, well said. Hey, like, because I feel like some people just come for the first point of there is money, and then they've come, and that's why they've gone. But it's like, as you say, so when you say the model issue, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, people were telling you that they were making $2,000 per person, so you were like, sweet, like $50 CAC, awesome. But then, no, like then it's not working. You're still getting told you're not getting the lead flow or whatever.
Yeah, it's like you get 6 visits down and the lead is still the issue. Why? Why can't you take accountability of your own performance? Because if I had a customer, that customer left because of me, not because of an outsourced marketing system. You know what I mean? Like, that happen on the front end. And so you get weird things coming down the pipeline, and whether it's coming from freaking coaches or whether it's coming from themselves, like just ideas, it's like the misattribution is really frustrating, because marketing just becomes really easy to blame, where it's like if it genuinely was $50 CAC and a $2,000 LTV, all you need to do is spend more, right? Spend more and then do the equal amount of work to convert those customers, because the math works, and the math is just not mathing. So when I get to the point of doing consultations, that's never the case, right? The LTV is always inflated, the margin is always inflated, and so it's never worked. Even in the glory days, it's never worked.
Yeah.
So we saw a lot of people go up to 400 plus, and still the consultations were, this is not working. Why? But chiros couldn't figure it out, despite being with the coaches. And so this is what I'm saying. The advice that you're going to get is often going to be counterintuitive, because it's not the advice that's coming from the industry. You actually have to look outside and go, well, what's going on? And I think what is going on is there's an ego buffer. There's just a blooming veil that is just over the practice, and it's like, be honest.
Yeah.
And so it's just really hard. Like, and we were talking about earlier, 1,000 plus, what's good? Is it 400 plus? Is it 800? Honestly, I've just seen all of those numbers, and I've seen some good ones, and I've seen the majority of really bad, because the advice is you just keep getting more people in to facilitate that. And so I understand the pipe dream of, like, at a certain point there's a pivot and you get more margin because of the volume, but I haven't seen that, in all honesty.
Yeah. And you again, you brought up like two things in that, right? So the first one is, we don't know what the value of the thing is that we're selling. So that lamp that's behind Nathan is $2,000. You can spend $200 to sell it. They keep telling us it's a nice lamp too. They keep telling us that they're selling 2,000, but it's only 800, and then trying to make the economics work. And it's like, so that's the model. Like, when we say the model problem, that's the model problem, because an $800 lifetime value potentially can't do that outsourcing. And for you to recognize that when the CAC was, a fifth of what it is now, and it's like, you should have been doing that. Like, that's the problems that we should have been solving back then, which clearly haven't been addressed. The second one then, which is where SVMs come from, is even when you get to these numbers that people say are the $2 million practice, your lifestyle, you're working 3.5 days a week, there's no margin between the visit cost and the expense. So you can do 10,000 visits a day, you're still not going to be any further ahead. And it's like, yes, we're not like forgetting that there is a tipping point where you will get more margin. But for some reason, typically when you're at that point and you're doing 10,000 a day, you've also added 10,000 a day worth of expenses to be able to fulfill on that service, because your model doesn't allow you to actually get that wedge in. And that's what's dragging everyone back down. And I think we all agree is burning everyone, because it's like, they said when I got to here, I would be at X, but now I'm still as far away from X as I was when I started. And then emotionally, like, helping 400 people a week and not getting anything back for it is very tough. So that's why sometimes we see, that, well, then that lean out is, okay, well, where is that point? Like, as Nathan said earlier, you could exercise for 4 hours a day, but you're not recovering past a certain point. So you're probably actually better off stopping at an hour and a half. So it might be the same thing for practice. You might be better off getting to 150 and then just being really nice and lean there as much as you can, because if you even chased 400, the return isn't there, and it's just damage on your body. That literally, actually, it is just damage on your body. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Aaron, because I didn't fully know that either, to be honest. We've probably just never sat down and had that conversation. Nath, yourself. So you've obviously gone through all the practices. You've done quite a lot of coaching yourself. You've had the launch, which is still a product people can buy. You can do a little plug if you want, I don't mind. But now it's like you're shifting over, because we've worked in a capacity of an agency with you and then on other stuff. What made you reach out and go, what else can we do?
Yeah, good question, right? Like I've been through the whole journey, and then I think just naturally, as me as a person, I did this at uni, I've done my whole career, is just trying to always be up on knowledge, but trying to help others. I just really love this industry. I love what it's given me, and it's definitely, people have heard my stories, and has not been easy a lot of the time. I have definitely had moments in my career where I thought maybe this is not it, but I'm thankful that I've stuck with it, and it's a joy where it is now. But I guess if I look at practice, like since opening my own practice, I went really, really hard into building a model that supported the associate because I had been an associate for a long time by choice. I really loved being an associate. I was probably a dream associate for most people because I did so much of my own marketing. I mean, I built my own website at one stage because one of the practices had a terrible website. And I was like, I'll just pay and get this done for me. And still handed back 60% of my revenue to that owner. So, went for it. And I hit a point where I was like sort of capped out. And I'm like, well, how do we change the model to support the associates moving forward? And then opened the practice, got really busy really quickly, started bringing associates on, and then had basically a 3-year stint where I had associates. I would finally getting return on them because of how well I was paying them. And then they would go on to do their own thing. And then I would have to start again. And then I turned around, probably 3-4 years in and was like, I'm probably net negative. I've had some great people, met some great relationships, but if I look at where I was to where now, I've probably gone backwards from the energy I put into this. And so I was in a recalibration phase when I had my major injury where I snapped my Achilles, which put me out of practice, which forced me to really relook at the model because I turned around and I'm like, well, I was seeing 150 a week solo, locum, it was now associate came on, took that over. And yet from a cash flow point of view, the business was going backwards. And I was like, we're doing 150 a week. We're doing, 12, 13,000 a week in revenue. And there's nothing left over by the time I pay for everything. And so this can't work long term. Right. So this has to be relooked at. So I come back in, I start to eat a lot of overhead. We start to go, well, we're growing 3 of us at once. We're going steadily and we're putting a lot of effort in. And I said to the associates, to support all the work I'm making you do, I'll also pay for some marketing. And headphones dropping out, just let me switch them over. And we got to chat and got going. And, I'm the first to admit we've had really good chats about how well marketing has gone at times, but you were the first group that I ever worked with that were honest when things were going well and when they weren't going well. Whereas everyone else I had worked with previously, and I'd done my own ads and then I'd outsourced to an agency because I was busier and felt I had the time and margin for it. And then their answer to everything was just spend more money, spend more money. Oh, we need more results. We need to spend more money. And then I did a quarterly review on what we'd spent to what we'd returned. And I was like, I'm down $8,000. And there's no point in me investing in this further. So this is the first time I actually worked, not to pump up your tires, but people that were honest about things. I think we just had more and more conversations. And eventually I sort of touched the shoulder and was just like, hey, I think there's something else that needs to be done here. Like you're running into these issues. I'm then also running the launch, which started as a mentoring for newer grads and students because I was sick of seeing people get churned up in their first year and exit the profession. But then I was seeing feedback from owners that they couldn't support associates. So it's like, all right, something in the model actually needs to change. It's not that necessarily the associates need more training. They do. And that's why the launch is now an information product that goes live in the next couple of weeks, self-directed and all that. And it'll teach you everything the uni never taught you. But yes, that needs to happen. But we need a model that actually supports associateship and supports it at all different levels. And that's where the lean practice sort of comes because it's like, all right, I understand both from having, multiple practices, from making practices across, different states and continents, what it takes. I understand the costs associated. I understand how you can push and push and push. And at times not feel like you're moving forward. And at times you start to go, we're a 7-figure practice right now. And I also understand that a lot of people are now afraid to have associates. So how do we build a model that has the margin to develop great associates, that everyone goes well, and that it continues to have people go through the profession? Because at the end of the day, for me, all I really care about is the people have a great experience in a profession I love. It's really that simple for me.
Yeah. So for you then, because you've sort of told me some stories over the past 6 months, I suppose, where you've sort of been through programs, you've had people go through your programs, and some of them, they're not getting any benefit out of it. And then others, they are. You can see they're going to be successful. Not to nitpick on an individual, but what personality traits are you seeing, between these connected ones and the disconnected ones? Is it a belief? What is it? Tough question, I know.
It's unfortunately it's not. It's the very thing we talked about before. Like when they're connected in, they're motivated, right? So I've had a couple of crew that opened their practice straight from graduation and they're cranking it. They're doing really well. They were keen, they listened, they asked questions, they got involved, they did the work, and they continue to go forward. In fact, sometimes it's my job just to hold them back a little bit from jumping too fast.
Mhm.
You've then got a bunch that obviously graduated, went into associateships, again, listened, are doing the work, understanding that takes time building through. And then you've got a bunch that were either a couple ball practices or jumped between associateships or institutes, and they never turn up to anything. They don't do any of the training. They don't get involved in the community. And they just expect that, because they paid a fee, that somehow by osmosis they're going to develop. And it's just not a thing, right? Like some people think they finish uni and now they magically walk into some kind of job that pays them well. It's just like the work's only just beginning. And I don't know if we've lost the education on that. I don't know if people are just oblivious to it. But I'm quite a optimistic person, just like sometimes like pessimistic rants. I'm quite I like to avoid confrontation and have support people move forward. But I've had some pretty honest chats where it's just like, you told me you've not done this stuff, and yet you're expecting somehow things to be different than they are.
Yeah.
Do you want to continue to lie to yourself, or do you want to start doing the work? Like I've had multiple associates be like, well, I was waiting for my principal to do this and this and that. I was like, who cares about what they're doing? What are you doing? Like, because the only one you're hurting right now is you. It's like you waiting to do this because your principal hasn't done something is you undercutting yourself, because
Yeah.
they already got a business for a lot of them that they'll survive. Whereas you're the one who's struggling because you're almost like, you're cutting off your arm to feed your face, right? Like it's just this really weird thing that seems to happen. And again, I think one of the revelations we really had is that people don't love practice anymore. Like they talk big games about like that I die for this, I love this, but the first thing they want to do is get out of practice. And so like if you love doing it and you want to help more people and it's truly a passion for you, doing the work is easy. Like that first thing I said, I think I said it on every sales call I made for the launch. And this is a very low cost product because I wanted to make it as accessible to everyone as possible. It was just like, when you start an associateship, you've got 2 years, especially if you're going from zero, hard graft. You're working full time plus doing the work. And then it will pay you for years to come because you've built such a reputation, a following, that you actually don't have to do 99% of the work anymore if you just maintain a minimum. You'll get paid really well, you have great lifestyle, but you have to do at least 2 years of hard graft usually. And if you go even harder, you might be able to get it done in 1. But 2 years is usually the safety point where you've built enough reputation that you naturally grow and are steady and you don't have to do a heap, right? But everyone's just looking for the golden bullet. Everyone's like, I'm 3 months in, I'm not growing, so I'm going to bounce, right? And then from the other side, what we're seeing with the owners is the owners are like, they're 3 months in, they're costing me a heap of money. I think we mentioned the thing. I have built a thing called the associate calculator, which literally tells you what an associate costs. Because most people think it's just the associate brought in this much, I had to pay them this much, the leftover is the profit. It is not true. And so when you look at it, it tells you a lot of things. And so I think it's important for both associates and principals to understand, because the principal thinks they're wondering where the money's at, and the associate feels like the principal's making all this money and they're getting undercut. And then that's where you're having all these battles just constantly within the industry where people, and a bunch of people feed into that too. And it's usually for their own good. Whereas like for me, like the best thing we can ever do is build great relationships, because that allows the best relationships to flourish and be profitable, both in practice, in development, and, for patient experience. But the number one thing is exactly what we talked about before. People don't want to do the work. And if you don't do the work, don't expect anyone to do it for you.
That's it. I saw the same thing with our associates. So it's like, it's not necessarily when you say go and do the hard work, meaning go and find a volume practice and work in the volume practice. It's do all the other stuff, go and build the website without their permission. Any associate that I ever saw that was successful, same thing. You almost have to tell them to just slow it down a little just to get the sequencing right, because otherwise they just throw all this crap at the wall and burn out. So again, that's super interesting, because it's like the model's one thing, but then it's also you in the model. It's not a numbers game, which I think we get caught up in. It's what are you doing to develop yourself and your own reputation? That's the game. So Aaron,
and just on that, sorry, Aaron, before I go to, there's something else that has to be said here, right? Like I hated being quiet in practice. I hate having gaps. And so what going and doing the work meant is I didn't have gaps. And so I got to enjoy practice more, because when you're busy, practice is more enjoyable. There's nothing worse than just sitting around, not getting paid, doing nothing.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you feel that with work to do to build it? Right? It just doesn't make sense, because you are even as an associate, you're building yourself. You're building yourself on someone else's dime. It's never better an opportunity. And the people that are just hunting for going and getting into a high volume, when you graduate, I feel like there's 2 simple options. One, go find something like a regional practice or a good practice in an existing base, if you can find it, and go put a couple of years of hard graft into it and get the volume and the experience. Or either build your own if you're one of the probably less than 2% that's ready to go, or go get a good associateship, start from zero and learn to build it. Because if you learn to build a practice, you can do it anywhere. I've done it 5 or 6 times now in my practice. I've done it in 2 languages. Then you drop me out of a plane pretty much anywhere, give me some time, I'm going to build that practice, right? I know what levers to pull, what to do. Like if it's getting quiet in practice, I know exactly where to go to crank that back up. Right? You cannot take that skill away from me. Like you can't. Like I own that right now. Most of these crew never learnt it, never owned it, and so they can't. Like they're like, oh, I mean, I've had one where with working with someone wasn't going well, and I hear from this person's girlfriend who's still a student. Oh, he's decided to open his own practice because it's all the practice's problem. Goes into their own practice where they're renting a room out of a gym. And then I hear her talk about, oh, he had a new patient this week. I was like, I mean, he's had, and they're like, how long's he been going for? Like 4 weeks. So he's had like 2. I'm like, here is my phone number. Tell him to call me. I will tell him everything I know for free just to try and help him. Never heard the call. And about a week later, he quit and went to the occupational health and rehab. And then his girlfriend took a job going out of school, had a proverbial freak out because I know she had this old mate sitting in her ear being like, oh, this thing is useless. She had a mental breakdown on practice. She was working for a mate of mine. It was like, what the hell is going on? I thought she was going to be so promising. And I was like, bro, there's a problem here. Bailed out. Neither of them do chiropractic. They're both in health rehab. And that you shouldn't know today. They were just used to parrot everyone else's stuff and they didn't want to do the work. And like you literally, I'm giving you everything I have here to try and help you for no cost. You didn't even call.
Yeah, that's it. It's the want. So Aaron, closing thoughts. What's the difference in the first month someone engaged? Give them 2 months because you sort of need 2 months to get an understanding of someone. What's the difference between someone who stays on for 12 and someone who drops out, goes and finds another agency? What traits are you seeing more from an owner side? Because that was probably more of the associate perspective, a little bit owner there as well.
Yeah, I'd say the people that I enjoy working with the most, they don't have to know what they're looking at in particular, but they want to learn. So they're like, hey, we want to engage you, but we also want to know how to make this work. That's ideal. So there's a teachable kind of spirit to them. They're not coming in that they know it all, even if they've worked with other agencies and whatnot. Like that's cool. The other one is they're honest, because I'm going to tell you when Facebook is a volatile and variable environment. You're not always going to, if you get a $20 lead today, you're not getting a $20 lead tomorrow. It may be double, triple, quadruple. You may go 3 days into $200 before it results. Like it's not a stable environment. So I get to tell people when it's not stable, which isn't the most fun. And you've had many of those conversations as well. What I like is when people say, well, how do we resolve that? What do we have to do to resolve that? Because marketing is an extension of yourself. Like marketing is not the marketing agency's job. The marketing agency's job largely is strategy and distribution, right? And optimization. Ultimately, it's your brand. Like you friggin' own your brand, right? Like this is your practice. This is not my practice. I don't give a crap about your practice. Like it's not my business, dude. Your brand, it's your message. The thing is that when you own that and you're like, this is my brand, what do I need to do in order to get that down? Because we're going to do our job. Like we have best practices, we have standards, we have things that we have to do in order to bring price down. And we keep people based off of our ability to stabilize that price over time. That's our job. We've had to add on, here's the words that you say, here's how to do your message, because there's a lot of confusion around how do we actually communicate that. But ultimately, if this is your brand, this is your company, you have the most input here. And we would turn down what we would recommend or tweak what you recommend to make it work for you because it's your brand. And so I like people that are like, this is my unique message. This is my unique audience. This is actually how I want to be able to communicate. This is our social media. How do we do any of that better? Like, how do we collaborate more? Instead of get me the new patient, what's the minimum I have to do? And then interrogate us whenever there's a money issue. Or, like I hate that transactional relationship. That just doesn't work for me, because we want to collab, partner, and ultimately grow, because we believe that that's how this relationship would work long term. And so I like that. It's like collaboration, and then the ability to learn off of each other. And, you help us improve our ability to deliver and optimize by owning your message, your avatars, your unique clients, owning the way that you want to communicate. And then we add to that what basically is the best standard operating procedures out in the market right now. That for me is awesome. And then over time we can nurture that. And then the opposite is true. It's just like, I've been told that, my coach has given me the green light to scale. I've just taken on an associate, never grown an associate before. I want to take more time off. That for me is like, that's the opposite, because now you're saying I want to be disconnected. The associate needs to grow. Therefore, the associate owns my message. There's just a lot of red flags in that, and that's not ideal for me. So collaboration, teachability, and then ultimately, if you can grab all of that and own it, and then, actually delegate it properly, that's a good functioning relationship.
Well, that's sort of the benefit of the basis of any relationship. It's yeah, I think you summarize that really well. It's just the ones that actually want to learn. And it's the same with an associate. Like associate to an owner to outsourcing if they get the chance to do so. And I fully understand why some people are hostile, like with agencies, they've been burned in the past, whatever. What I don't understand is why they think going and doing the exact same action with someone else is going to make any difference whatsoever. There is no
Yeah.
magic Facebook strategy that halves your lead cost overnight. Like it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I don't know if it ever did. Maybe there was optimizations. I don't know. From what I'm seeing, there's not. What does work is consistency, owning your message, building your brand, building your reputation, giving it time to bake, just like going to the local cafe and putting your business card there, sticking the dog on the door. Like it's
Yeah.
just building who you are. So ultimately, I think to wrap this one up, there's different models that exist, which is awesome. There's different ways to grow practices, there's different ways to train associates. All of these things exist. So you need to understand all of those. But if you don't start by owning whatever or wherever you sit on that spectrum, and then all the parts that fit into your business, you've really got no chance. Like it's going to be a long and painful career of ups and downs, and largely downs more than ups. That's, I think, the beauty of being a chiro is there's this huge opportunity, but there's almost so much opportunity that it's overwhelming. So instead of looking at it like, the chiro opened across the road, I'm stuffed. It's like you can be completely different people, and you both can be successful. As Nate said, you probably do even better because there's two of you there now.
Yeah.
So owning your shit, so important. Being connected to the practice, owning your model. When you're an associate, you probably left because you didn't like the model. So then it's like, why would you go out and start another model that you don't like? Like,
Yeah.
figure out what you want and go from there.
Yeah.
That's-
Just one last thing, man. I've been in South Korea for the last 4 weeks. You walk down the road here, and there are 6 Korean barbecues. Okay, so first of all,
Just
I'm in
barbecues.
Korea. Is it Korean barbecue or just barbecue? Don't know. But Anna and I are always talking about it. It's just like there's none of these stand out. Like you walk past, and they've all got the same sign, and they've all got the same cost, and there's a person on the front, just standing out there. They don't do anything. They don't say anything. But it's like, if you just did something unique, if you just did one thing unique, you might actually fill it up, because they're all empty. Because I assume just around the corner there's probably another 6, but they're all empty. And it's like, what's lacking in anything is just a uniqueness. You just have to, like, and that's the beauty of it. It's like, even if someone did open up across the road, you have a completely different demo. You have a completely different message. You have a completely different vibe. The more faceless you are, the more the public can't tell. And then, and that's what the problem is like, you've got 2 competing practices competing at like the not even like at the most non-unique point, like building frontage. It's like, that's not unique at all. Like, Nate, put a dog on your front. There's something different about it. And so I think this is the when it comes to, like, especially in the marketing side of things, it's like you're not owning it because you don't actually know how to own your message. And that's what I would hope that people would get to, is like, especially if like this is your representation of chiropractic, like at least have the balls to just be a little bit different. You can practice different, you can do things different, you can present yourself completely different. Go ahead and do it. It's a really good time for it. You might actually get a bunch more new patients without spending an arm and a leg. But
Exactly.
that's
Nice one, mate. I like that. We'll put the pin in it right there. Thanks for wrapping up.